Welcoming you live from the Stadium East Field at Darien High School. It's boys and girls cross country on the DAF Media Network, and the girls varsity race is now underway here from the Stadium East Field. Dylan DeRiso, Damian Andrew, so glad you could be joining us for this beautiful evening for some nice running between a few schools today. We have Darien, Warde, Central, Harding, Bassett, and McMahon as well. The girls' race is underway. Damian, glad to have you on the mic today. This wasn't planned, but we should have some good running ahead of us. The weather's perfect, and what do you expect to see?
Great afternoon, Dylan, and it's a pleasure to be with you as we are seeing the lead group here come through the baseball field. They'll cross over, and then they'll go up onto the track, the running course here at Darien High School. We unfortunately will not be able to bring you that live, but we're going to talk about the course. This running course has been, it's been about 3 years now in existence.
This will be the second home meet of the year, and we'll take a look at the course that you'll be seeing today. Obviously, the start right along Stadium East is where the finish will be as well. They'll come along, go across the varsity baseball field. A lot of turf we see at the beginning here, easy on the feet, but then they make that transition into gravel coming off the baseball field. Our footage here courtesy of Connor Fagan. As they hit the gravel, they come across the entrance across High School Lane, and then they'll make their way up the side, past the oval, and just around the perimeter of the high school property. That's one of the more challenging sections of this course, is certainly this uphill grind along the oval field, and certainly taxing 2 laps for the racers. And you have to learn to really manage your energy as you're going along here, and this is where winners and losers are made at this point in the race. Obviously, later in the race, you see a lot of runners kicking in, trying to get that boost, but it's important to conserve energy while also making your way up this hill and keeping your place. Then they enter through the woods, Diller Park to be exact. They'll move along the perimeter, get some shade, a chance to cool down after being out in the sun. That shouldn't be too much of a problem today, though sun's been in and out of the clouds. But it's still pretty cool out here at Darien High School. It was a lot hotter earlier today. It was a lot hotter during the novice races just a few minutes ago, but things have cooled down. You can see as they make their way through the woods. We've got some time before the girls varsity runners will be making their way back down and around here. And you'll continue to get to see the showcase of the beautiful, still relatively new cross-country course here at Darien High School. Made its debut 2 years ago, back in the 2020 COVID season. Continue through the woods, finally making the way out onto Nutmeg. Then the runners are down onto the sidewalk, and coming from a runner, this part can be a little unsatisfying. They've got the runners often have the cross-country spikes in, meaning those metal spikes that they screw into their shoes before the races, using them usually just for race days, not in their trainers, and those can really hurt. Not hurt, but it can be unsatisfying, easy to lose your grip a little bit, possibly some skidding as you're coming around down that sidewalk and on that pavement with those spikes on.
Of course, Darien High School, the cross-country teams never used to be able to hold home meets. And now with this new running path, this new running course, that has become a reality. What do you like most about this course? I mean, obviously, I've walked it a few times. It's just beautiful. But as a runner, What do you like most about this course, Dylan?
Look, Damien, this course really tests a lot of different aspects of running. You've got your straightaways, you've got your uphills, you've got your downhills, and of course you've got that beautiful kick at the end, which lasts just about 100 yards or 100 meters, as they would say in cross country, of course.
Yep.
And you know, if you see, we didn't really get to show it on the video here just a few moments ago, that drone video. But down on the far side by the Darien High School gyms, there is a bit of a downhill there.
Yep.
And it takes a lot of maturity as a runner to really take it easy when you're going down that hill, not to use it and not to gas out all of your energy as you're going down that hill, because you don't want to be burning out before you come down around for these final stretches. Because as we look along here, they don't have it up on screen at the moment, but when you're looking along here on the Stadium East field, that trail goes along the far side next to the woods of the Stadium East, and that's one straightaway. The runners really start to pick up their pace later in the race, and then they make their final turn around onto the turf field, and then there's really nothing holding them back at that point. It's a perfect straightaway, perfect, pristine turf to run down and try to get that final kick. But this course really challenges every runner, because there's runners that thrive in the straightaways. There's the ones that are better on the uphills. They know how to conserve their energy while also keeping their pace. But it's really a challenging course overall. And with a lot of courses you see in the FCAC and around the state, some of them will be only a single loop. Some of them, like Darien, a couple loops. Some even more than that. But I've really enjoyed this course while I've been on it. The surface is excellent, too, the gravel surface. As we can see, the girls' varsity runners now making their way back down, led by Coach Rashid Sofian of the Darien Blue Wave in the golf cart. And it looks like that is Cam Meyer leading the way for the Blue Wave.
And she has really put distance between herself and the rest of the pack, as she has a nice pace going right here. Dylan, let me ask you this. We mentioned at the outset of the broadcast, the weather is just perfect. Not too hot, not too cold. I would say for a runner, this would be idyllic conditions.
And I was talking to Coach Tyson Kazmarek of the Darien Blue Wave earlier today before the race, and Darien did have a meet earlier in the season. Their top runner, Nikki Yu, thrived, scoring one of the top times all time on this course on that day. And Tyson was saying to me, those were extremely hot, humid conditions, extremely challenging for a runner. So you can only expect to see better times today in these conditions. Low to no humidity at all, a lot of cloud cover, perfect temp. You can't really ask for much better weather than this.
And there's a good crowd here to watch this varsity girls cross country meet here at Darien High School on the Blue Wave's beautiful campus. Dylan, the difference between the girls varsity race in terms of distance and the boys varsity race, which is coming up here on the DAF Media Network, it's 2.5 laps for the boys race, you were saying, and the girls race is a tad bit shorter.
I believe it's about half a mile shorter, might be a little less than that. The distances here are a little bit intricate. It's not exactly like a 3-mile race or a 5K. I believe the boys is, I know the boys JV earlier was about 1.65. I believe the boys varsity is 2.95 or 2.98 miles. The girls a little shorter than that. You can see them making their way now. Darien seems to be leading so far. Sometimes it can be tough to tell. From where we're standing, we're at a bit of a distance here, and some of the jerseys can be hard to differentiate from our distance.
And again, Darien has the lead in this race. At a little past the halfway point.
Just under 10 minutes in here to this girls' varsity race. You can really notice the spread of runners early in the race. You can see that pack, and it starts to spread out a lot as you go along. In the varsity race, you don't see as much spreading as you do in that novice race, but there's still runners coming down around the Stadium East here. We can expect that the lead runners, Cam Meyer especially, is probably making her way up that oval hill if she's not past it and into Dillard Park already. But she is the favorite in this one, and she's got a lot of potential. Only a junior. Darien lost a lot of talent after last year. Teitler and Class were two major runners for the girls' varsity, but Meyer has really stepped up to fill the gaps that were left behind by those two. You'll notice on our cameras now, pretty empty views. All the runners are now back on the backside of the course due to our limitations in technology and data space and availability. We can't really get you those views from back in the park and up the hill and such. Hopefully, maybe one day in the future of DAF Media, that'll be a possibility. But for now, we're just limited to down here, which will get interesting at the end, Damien, when they come around for that final stretch. And
no doubt.
That really shows who wants it more. When you're coming around that final turn, everybody's still got a little bit left in the tank. Nobody ever is out of gas in the tank when they're coming around the final turn. It really comes down to who's going to expend all of that, who's going to let it all out, willing to give it their all to make a final kick. And back when I ran cross country, that was always my favorite part, coming around that final turn. I know you were probably about to mention that. We were talking about that earlier.
Yep.
But I find that to be one of the most fun parts of the race. You see that finish line, and you just want to go, partially because you want to be done with the race, you want to be done with the running, you want to go home, but also because you've got kids in front of you. You're always going to have people in front of you unless you're winning the race, and that's a lot of motivation down this final stretch to kick it into gear and try to catch them. And that's where you find a lot of the fun and a lot of the drama, especially in these races, and you see it a lot more happen towards later in the season. During the postseason, FCX and states, you see a lot of big kicks at the end, because you're down to desperation at that point. You really want to give it your all to get that best time.
Well, I think at that point, right, you just want to let loose and as you mentioned, give it your best shot at the end. It is a fine line, though, isn't it? How much energy you expend during the race and how much you save for that final kick, as you were just talking about.
Certainly, and most coaches will probably not want you to be saving too much energy. If you're coming down this final, the final 300 meters, you've got the final 100-yard stretch, as we were talking about. But if you're still saving during that final 300 meters, then you're not going hard enough. You should be on the brink. You should be running on fumes by the time you're turning around into that final turn, almost running on pure adrenaline at that point, because a coach will always want more from you if you're saving for that final kick. Because some might say that if you're just coming down kicking at the end, you've still got a lot left in you. You're just sort of saving it for the glory when everybody's watching in that final stretch. And you certainly don't want that to happen, because you'll get a lot of cheers from the crowd and the parents, but your coach won't be too happy if you're saving all your energy.
And we're approaching the 14-minute mark here as we wait for the conclusion of this varsity girls cross-country meet here at Darien High School. Darien hosting Brien McMahon, Fairfield Warde, and the Bridgeport schools.
All three of them.
Central, Bassick, and Harding. And here we go, Dylan.
Coach Sophion making his way down. Cam Meyer short behind, and you can see her really kicking into it now. That kick begins during the final 300 meters. After you're down that hill past the stadium field, the kick really begins. You're coming along the short side of the Stadium East, past the JV baseball field, and then you can see her really starting to pick it up. Now she's in that last 250 to 200 meters of the race. She's going to make her way, start to pick up that pace. Cam Meyer leading the way by more than 100 meters, it seems. Far more than that, maybe even 200. Rashid Sofian leading her back in. And you can start to hear that roar from the crowd. This was expected. Cam Meyer was the favorite in this one, and she certainly executed. You can see her giving it all she's got on her way down, and that's exactly what you want to see. Still got some left in there, if any at all. I'm sure Cam Meyer has a lot left in her. An extremely talented runner. She'll finish at around 15:30. Call it 15:27.
Wow, an impressive finish for Meyer.
Meyer with ease. I would call that maybe a 250-meter lead by the time she finished that race. And just always an impressive performance from her, especially considering she's just a junior. So she'll be back next year with this team. She'll be putting up even better numbers.
Yeah, nobody else in view as she was coming down the home stretch here and making that final turn onto Stadium East.
She kept coming around, Damien,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, and I saw her coming down.
Yeah, and you couldn't see anybody
approaching,
else.
and I was looking up the hill, and I couldn't even see anyone. So impressive. Leaving a big gap like that is something to be very proud of. The Darien varsity girls team is 4-2 on the season thus far. As you can see, more Darien runners making their way down. You can see that kick. Warde. There is a Warde runner short behind, looking to make a run, trying to catch up at the end, but it looks like Darien will probably be securing this race. There are 6 teams here today. I believe all 6 fielded varsity girls teams, which this would give Darien 5 more wins on their record, which would extend their record to 9-2. So you can see more of the final runners making their way in as we're just over 17 minutes and 20 seconds now.
Dylan, this is an important part of the race, right, for points. I mean, for team points. Obviously, we know who the winner is, but now runners are jockeying for position, trying to work their way up.
Yes,
get up more
certainly.
points for the team.
The winners have definitely already been decided for this race. Darien clearly winning. Warde in second. I assume McMahon in third is what it seems like it'll be. But yeah, at this point in the race now, when you see a lot of these runners that aren't finishing in that top 5 group, this is their chance to prove themselves and continue to secure their spot on varsity. Every race is a competition between teams, but also between runners on teams. They're going to support each other all the way, but they're each going to do the best that they possibly can to move themselves up on their own team's rankings and continue to try to secure their spot on varsity. And you'll see runners in the novice too, which happened earlier. Some of the top runners in that might have earned themselves a boost up to the varsity group after if they had a great performance or not. And you know, there's usually some bubble athletes at the top and at the bottom of each of those levels. So you'll see them going up and down a little bit between races. But just you look at this race, and it's really just a great showing for Darien today. Cam Meyer had an amazing performance, as expected. And the Blue Wave are running along this season really well. 9-2 after this race, I believe, will be their record.
And she's one of the top runners in the FCAC.
Certainly
on
so.
the girls' side. Yeah, you can see the final kicks here out of a lot of these runners as they enter Stadium East from the running path. And as you mentioned, such a unique course, the way they have it set up for these home cross-country meets here at Darien High School.
Always love when a course offers a good straight-out final stretch.
Yep.
A lot of great courses have it. The FCAC course, New Canaan's course at Waveney. I'll tell you, one of the more unique courses, Todd's Point in Greenwich. When you're running alongside the beach there's a lot more twists and turns. It's a lot of very wooded area. And the final stretch there, actually, you go up a hill, and then on that back side of the hill, you go straight down into the finish line. It's only about 50 meters to that finish line. So you really get to implore some different strategies on these different courses. And Darien and Todd's Point are two very different courses. West Hills course over in Stamford, that's heavily wooded area. A lot of roots and rocks, too. You'll see those marked with spray paint, but a lot of different types of courses. And then you've got Allen's Meadows over in Wilton. That's another great course. A lot of open straightaways at that course. A lot of running going on in the sun there, and usually they have the Wilton Invitational at the beginning of the season, too. So you'll catch the sun in that and the heat. So you really get to see a lot of variety across the FCAC in cross country, and that's one of the great things about this sport. You can sort of compare it to golf in a way, with every single course. They're called courses in both sports, actually. So every single course is different in its own way, and they each offer different strategies and whatnot. So that's one of the things that you can definitely enjoy about cross country, and one of the things I think the runners like most, because they'll have a poor race one day, and you'll get to one of the course that you're better at, and you'll perform a lot better. I'll tell you personally, from my personal point of view, this course here wasn't always my strongest back when I ran. Todd's Point was one of my strongest. I PR'd there twice, versus here where I was just fighting to get my time to sort of a benchmark where I wanted it to be. So you can really see a lot of differences from these courses, and that's one of the things I love about this sport.
Yeah, those are all great points, and you bring up the personal bests, the personal records. That's something that's unique about this sport. Every time out, you're trying to establish a new best, if you will. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And you comparing it to golf, and there are courses for different horses, right? I mean, there's you may not do well on this course. You may do well at Waveney, or vice versa, or whatever. And by the way, Waveney Park, of course, is the host and home of the FCAC championships year in and year out. Has for as long as I've been covering sports in southwestern Connecticut, for the better part of 17 years. So, and that is an absolute gem. Great course, beautiful facility.
And I don't want to, go into golf too much here, but like you were saying, in golf there's courses that favor the long driver, and then there's courses that favor the short game. And it's the same thing in cross country. There are courses that favor that good straightaway runner that's good at, not as intricate courses, but they're just good at picking up their pace and keeping their pace straight away, while there's other courses that favor that runner that's good at sharp turns and adjusting their pace based on lots of ups and downs. So it's really interesting how you'll see different numbers come up after different races, even if they're similar distances. So the girls' race has just about come to a conclusion here. So we're going to take a quick break here before the boys' varsity race. We'll be back here in just a few moments on the DAF Media Network.
The Darien Foundation was founded in 1998 by Richard and Maureen Chilton, and the thesis behind that founding was to bring technology to the Darien public school systems. And that launched us, and that got us going, and through technology and capital project initiatives, we've now funded over $5.5 million over the last 24 years to build a better Darien.
Our board really likes to get involved and assist the partners that we collaborate with, whether it's a grant for a youth project or a grant from a community service, schools, the police. Often they come to us with ideas that we help them bring to fruition.
The Darien Foundation recently awarded the Darien Police Department 2 grants. One was for laser shot and the other for Faro technology. Laser shot technology is based on decision making. It may come down to using their firearm, but in reality, we would like them to talk the situation down where you use less lethal force, and this program allows us to do that.
Police, drop the gun!
Faro technology gives us a 360-degree view, catching all the points we need to catch in our accident scene. It also takes a lot less time. This allows us to open up roads, get traffic flowing a lot quicker than we ever used to be able to. We can also map the inside of buildings. We can use it at outdoor crime scenes, indoor crime scenes. It's really used for a plethora of investigations. It's a tool that most other departments may not have their hands on just yet, and thanks to the Darien Foundation, we have that technology.
At Home in Darien is a nonprofit organization that helps senior citizens to remain living independently in their home and in the community. We provide important services to help them do so, such as transportation. Thanks to the Darien Foundation, we have this amazing new van, and we are so excited about it and what it'll do for the community.
From all standpoints, this is going to be a real improvement in the services we provide, both in terms of safety and comfort. The Darien Foundation is important to the community in the scope that they reach out to answer needs.
Post 53 is the town's ambulance service. We respond to over 1,600 emergency calls a year. We're a vital service that has been here for 51 years. The technology upgrades provided by the Darien Foundation has been a game changer for us. It's allowed us to improve our training. It has helped us hone our skills. You don't know how important an ambulance is until you actually need it. Thanks to our partnership with the Darien Foundation, who's provided all this technology and several grants throughout the years, we're able to continue to be prepared, to be well-trained and well-staffed, to respond 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whenever you need it.
The Darien Foundation is really excited to be able to launch a new program for the Darien schools, which will benefit students K through 12 in all 7 schools. This is the new robotics program, which will be an extracurricular opportunity for students to build robots, compete against other leagues, and collaborate together.
Our robotics program is going to benefit students in so many ways. In regular classes, students are always looking for the right answer, that there's only one way to answer something. Robotics is completely different. In robotics, you learn that there are multiple solutions to every problem. You learn that you have these obstacles that you have to overcome. You have to really be a creative problem solver. And most importantly, you need to persevere.
Early on in the process, the Darien Foundation reached out to administration and they offered to provide funding for a project, and it just dovetailed beautifully to the goals of the strategic plan. I look forward to continue to work closely with the Darien Foundation, both on this project and other projects down the line.
We welcome ideas for possible grants. We'd like to do grants that promote and strengthen our community. Sometimes it's from an organization, sometimes it's from our emergency service partners, or it's from the Darien Public Schools. One of our most popular grants, which was the Playground by the Sound, came to us from 4 Darien moms who said, let's get together and figure out how to build this.
Thanks to the generosity of our board members and officers, every dollar you give to the Darien Foundation goes directly to the grants that we're supporting. I invite all of you to help us move our community further and support the Darien Foundation.
Celebrating and supporting Darien athletes. That is a simple mission of the Darien Athletic Foundation. Broadcasting live from the field, DAF Media covers 125 games a year. All Darien teams, our youth, in our town, on our fields. Fields like the Center Oval and Upper Oval turfs, the JV softball field, and Stadium East, the longest turf in New England, all made possible by the Darien Athletic Foundation and its generous founders and donors. The Darien Athletic Foundation is not just committed to building our town's athletic infrastructure, it's improving the civic infrastructure, for everyone to enjoy. The multimedia scoreboard, the snack bar pavilion, and the stadium lights, a $750,000 investment that makes Darien High School just the second school in Connecticut with LED lights. The Darien
Back here live on the DAF Media Network as the boys varsity race is just about to get started, but we'll read through the top 5 runners of the girls race. In first place, obviously, Cam Meyer for the Blue Wave, followed by Avery Johnson and Allison Myers. And then 4 and 5 went to Madison Stevener from Warde and Michaela Cunningham from Warde. And the boys race is now underway here at the Stadium East Field. And Darien and Warde are certainly going to be the 2 top competitors in this race today. The most notable runner for the Blue Wave, Nikki Yu. You can see Nikki not too hot off the start, but that's where he wants to be. Nikki's a patient runner, and you'll see him start to progress and catch runners as he goes on. Ansley Scanton currently in second place from Darien as they'll make their way now down across the baseball field.
You are watching the boys varsity cross country meet. Darien hosting Brien McMahon, Fairfield Warde, and the Bridgeport schools, all 3. Central, Bassick, Harding.
So the racers are now on their way back around that backside of the race, as we mentioned earlier. And we're going to have on a Darien cross-country alumni here, Luke Reardon, 4-year runner, as well as Captain Luke. Thanks for coming on.
Of course.
So, Luke, I know you were here for the inception of this course. You were a junior for the first season that course saw, and now the runners are on their way back, heading up that oval, and then back into Diller Parks. What was your favorite part of this course during your time here?
So my favorite part of this course, it was new when I came in. We actually had never raced on it before, obviously. So the other teams had no idea what they were up against. So my favorite part was the second of the 2 laps. Everybody else would start dropping off pace because they weren't ready for the big long hill along the oval. So it was just a really great feeling to pass all these runners that I wasn't expecting to beat.
You were a big runner. You would pick up a lot of guys late in the race. I know Nikki Yu is a guy like that too, and that's kind of what Coach Tyson Kazmarek preaches, right? Catching the guy in front of you and picking him off one at a time. What can you say about that?
Exactly. Tyson, he's a great coach. He'll always encourage you to get that next guy, beat him to the corner, and beat him to the end of the line. Nikki and Ansley are both fantastic racers. I had the honor to watch Ansley race along with him, and the strategy that he came into the team with from Georgia is just phenomenal. It's really impressive to see how he races. And certainly Ansley definitely performs well in the early season as well when some of the other runners find a challenge sometimes due to that heat. I've got Anders Mueller here next to me. I'll have him on in just a moment. Anders, a 4-year runner and senior. Sorry about that, but yeah. What are you expecting the times to be now as they come around in that first mile? What do you think are the target times? It wasn't me. I could have answered it.
You are watching the varsity boys cross country meet between Darien, Brien McMahon, Bridgeport schools, and Fairfield Warde. Bridgeport schools including Central, Bassick, and Harding. Again, Cam Meyer of Darien won the varsity girls race. And we are about ready to see as the sun sets that lead pack or the lead runner come down off that hill and start to approach Stadium East once again.
We'll see if Nicky Yu has begun to make his way towards the front. We saw at the beginning during that first stretch, Nicky was about 6 or 7 runners back. Ansley Scanton for Darien was leading the way, as I mentioned. So we'll see if Nicky's made his way to the front. He is the lead runner for Darien. He actually PR'd earlier this season during a tempo. So, Luke, what can you tell me about those tempos and what they do for your guys during your training?
Yeah, so those tempos are they're pretty tough. We usually start the season with 3-mile tempos, 3.1 mile tempos. It's on a pretty hilly course, very different from the home course that we have here. So it's definitely a good way to see how in shape the team is. But as the season progresses, the team will do closer to 4.5 mile tempos to really show the fitness that they have. So it's a really great way to gauge the team's fitness.
We're approaching the 5 minute 20 or 5 minute 20-second mark. Luke, you told me earlier one of your first times running this course during a race, you were coming down that hill into the first mile marker at about a 5:09, I believe you said, and that kind of frightened you a bit. What can you tell me happened there?
Yeah, so the first mile is definitely where a lot of cross-country runners try to get into their groove. So that first mile, when you're coming down the hill, if you see a 5:09, 5:10, especially for these varsity runners, that's not uncommon to see, but it's definitely scary to see in a 5K race. You tend to want to be around the 5:20 pace, 5:25 pace for those top varsity guys. Sometimes you'll see a low 5:10.
And now we are coming around for the first lap. They're past that first mile marker now at the 6-minute mark, and it's tough to see who the front 3 are here. And if I'm not mistaken, it looks like 2 Fairfield Warde runners as well as Ansley Scanton. And Scanton, excuse me, is usually the number 2 guy for Darien. So what do you think we could be seeing here?
Yeah, so speaking to Ansley and both Nicky before the race, Ansley said he's feeling well. The plan, as always, is to just win and to hunt down those runners. So Ansley's obviously doing very well, chasing down Parker from Warde. Parker's a very, very good runner. I had the opportunity to race him last year at States, New England's, and FCX. Very good runner. Nicky, I believe he's not feeling 100%. He was sick this past week, so his training could have been a little lackluster there. But we'll see what moves he can make. He has just a few feet between him and the front chase pack.
I was talking to Coach Tyson Kazmarek earlier today. He did say that Nicky was pretty sick last week. He said that kind of gutted his training a little bit. He lost some of the normal miles that he would be doing, but he got back into it early in this week and sort of picked it back up. So I don't think he's fully 100%, but he's certainly getting his way back there, and hopefully he'll be back to 100% for Darien next week, as we just saw a bit of a Peloton group pass by with a couple of juniors in there. One of them being Pasquale Hoffman. I believe he's a sophomore.
Yeah, Pasquale's a sophomore. He's a very good runner. He is very, very impressive miler. He ran, I believe, low 5-minute mile, low 5:10 this past year, which is a very good time for a freshman sophomore mile time.
Luke, I know this Darien team lost a lot of talent after last year. Your senior class was very, very strong. This year's senior class, led by Ansley and Nicky, is a little bit lighter in numbers, and Darien's really had to have the youth step up. I know there was a situation like that about 2 to 3 years ago when your grade was sophomores. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so coming from my sophomore year into my junior year, there's a big drop-off. We lost some great runners, Cormac Brown, Lucas Madariaga, both phenomenal runners. Lucas actually had the course record on this course until this past year. Coming into a season without those top guys, those top seniors and juniors, it's a little tough. My year we had 5 very, very solid runners come in from the team. So to start this season off with just two or three top runners in the senior class, it's a little tough to really have that depth that we once had.
We can see Luke Zerby coming down here, and we can see a lot of sweat starting to form as these runners are coming across the turf. The sun did come back out, and it's starting to heat up more on the turf. So that certainly can be affecting the runners at this point in the race. Approaching the 10-minute mark. Where do you think the front runners are currently?
On the course or?
On the course, yes.
Yeah, so on the course, they should be going up the back hill towards the oval. This is where, like I had said earlier, the people who aren't familiar with the course will start to drop off. So as we saw Nikki making a move coming across this field a few minutes ago, trying to get into that front pack. We'll see in a little bit if he was successful in that final push. But he had a considerable 50 meters between him and the front runners.
Damien and I were talking earlier during the girls' race about that hill, actually, and how we were talking about that drop-off a little bit like you mentioned. How do you think it's important for runners to conserve their energy while going up that hill? Because if you hustle too much and try to pick kids off, then you're going to be tired for that last half mile to a mile. But if you take it too easy, then you're going to fall behind because it is a hill, and you got to try to keep your pace as you're going up that.
Yeah. So that hill, once you're at the top of that hill, you have about 1,000 to 1,200 meters left. So at least when I was here in season practicing, we would do repeats from the top of that hill all the way down to the finish. So we got a lot of repeats in. We're very familiar with that hill. Like you're saying, if you push too hard on a hill, you will drop off pace. But it's important to know how you race, know the best way to race. And as long as you stay consistent, you'll be fine.
And you talk about those repeats. Coach Tyson Kazmarek really likes to switch it up with his workouts. Every Friday, he's got those workouts, and usually they're on the racetrack. How can you attest to how that has helped the team as a whole and how it helped when you were here?
Workouts are definitely a very, very good thing to have, a large variety of, like Tyson has. It's really great to get some practice in at race pace, if not faster, on those Friday workout days. It really helps get you in the mindset for a race coming up next Monday or Tuesday. Yeah.
Obviously, have some recovery time over the weekend following those workouts because you can get pretty sore from what I can remember.
Yeah, definitely.
We can see more of the runners now coming along the Stadium East field. We can only assume that the front runners now, Nikki Yu, Ansley Scanton, some of the Warde runners, as you mentioned, are now back in that Diller Park, starting to make the transition towards the tennis court field as we are at that 12-minute mark.
Yeah, there's only about 4 or 5 minutes left of racing for those front runners. They should be coming up at the top of that hill in the woods over by Nutmeg Lane over there. Should be a good, fast race for them.
Now, when I talked to Damien,
So here on this course, we don't have a fully dirt or clay path like a lot of tracks do. We actually have a lot of cement and asphalt that the runners have to go through. So they don't always get to use their full spikes that they have, which can take some time off, which makes it a little harder to PR in these longer races. This course actually isn't a full 5K. I believe it's 2.98, something like that. 5K is 3.1.
I believe so.
So that's about 30 seconds, 45 seconds of time that they'll miss out on. But again, they don't have those spikes, so it'll be pretty close for them.
No runners in sight for us now. Most of them back on the backside of that course. And you were talking about those spikes a little bit. Let's talk a little more about those for people who aren't used to cross country. They aren't exactly cleats. They're separate from the shoes, and you screw them in. What can the dulling of those spikes do to your racing and to your time? How critical are they to your performance?
Yeah, so cross-country spikes are a track shoe. Lots of flexibility with them. Some of the better ones, the more professional ones, will have some structure and maybe even a carbon plate in there. But there's about 6 spikes that you get to screw in. And they'll be really great for cross country. Cross country has some very long spikes, and yeah. And here we have Parker from Warde coming in the last 250 meters, right before the hairpin turn. Behind him follows is Ansley Skelton, and then it looks like a third Warde kid, and then Nikki Yu coming in 300 meters to go.
Nikki broke away from some of those Warde runners that he was with, so looks like he'll probably secure that 4th place spot.
Yep.
Ansley's got to watch out, though. There's a Warde runner coming quickly on his tail for that final stretch, last 120 or so meters here.
Here comes Parker along the sharp hairpin. Ansley's very close to him, very, very close. He'll make the turn. I don't think anybody will make any moves here. There goes Parker down the final stretch. Ansley taking a peek over his shoulder, making sure he has 2nd place secured.
And that's something you usually don't want to do at this point in the race, right? You don't want to be looking over the shoulder, but this hairpin offers that opportunity to look back and kind of see where you are.
Wow. Watch this finish.
Oh, boy.
I think Ansley got it.
Ansley barely kicked in right at the end to hold on to his 2nd place finish. That was awfully close. Now Nikki Yu will come in to try to secure that 4th place finish, and he's got no one close behind him, so that is what will happen here. As we look at these times here, Parker Broderick came in at 16:01. Ansley Skelton winning by 0.3 seconds. If you take a look at that right here, 16:10.5. Cunningham coming in 16:10.8. Such a close finish.
Yeah, definitely tough to see in a cross-country race. Hard to pull off.
Cunningham had quite the kick at the end there. Kind of looked like Ansley had him. He was up on him by a good 15 meters, and then Cunningham really started to kick. Nikki Yu came in finishing 16:31.1. Followed by Charlie Williamson, 16:58.4. A big spread between these first 5 times.
Yeah, it's definitely good to see. This field is pretty deep. To have a spread between the first 5 places of about a minute, it's definitely speaks to both Parker, Ansley, and their skill.
A lot of these Warde runners have very strong kicks. You can see Thomas Aponte just got passed during the final stretch. What do you think is the difference maker between having a great kick and not?
So a big thing in your kick is it's a lot about your form. You have to drive your knees, drive your arms, and hope that you can pull off the final 100 meters. But a lot of it comes down to how well you raced. If you went out way too fast on the first mile, again, having that 5:09, 5:10 mile, it's definitely intimidating. So if you feel confident coming through in that 3rd mile, into that 3rd mile, then you should have a good kick. Here comes Owen with a fantastic-looking kick.
Owen Gluck, just a sophomore, has really stuck it out and started to fill in, helped fill in that top 5, which lost so many runners last year. We'll go through that top 5 for Darien today. Ansley Skelton, followed by Nikki Yu, then Thomas Aponte, Pasquale Hoffman, and then Owen Gluck, of course. And Owen was a bit of a sleeper. I talked to Tyson before. He said he would maybe be the 6. And Owen came out, performed, finished 5th for Darien.
Yeah, Owen had a lot of potential last year. We saw him in the freshman mile. We do it at the end of every season. He did very well there. So we've always had a lot of hope for him. He looks in really, really good shape this season, so I'm excited to see what he can do for the rest of it.
And I've talked to Coach Rashid Sofian about him a bit, calls him a type A runner. He'll always do exactly what is asked.
Yeah, and that's one of the huge things in the sport. If you can just muscle through the pain of the workout, you can really succeed in the sport.
See a lot more of the runners coming in now to finish. As we head into the upper 19 minutes. Luke Zerby finishing for Darien in about 1932. And Zerby is a kid with high hopes for Darien in the future. He was injured a bit at the beginning of the season, so Zerby and Gluck were both up and down in that 5 spot. And I know we saw Zerby as a freshman. He had a lot of potential there. I'm sure the injury hurt him pretty bad at the start of the season, but a kid like him, he's a very hard worker. What can you say about Luke Zerby from what you remember?
Luke Zerby is a very, very fast guy. When I first met him, he was always interested in the 400, those sprint type events. And as he progressed through the season, he always didn't fail to impress the coaches and the rest of the varsity squad. He's definitely somebody who will have a name for himself in a few years.
The junior class for Darien is really deep class, and they all stick together. You can see them on a lot of their runs together. They've always grouped together. They've always been, you can always see them working out together on the weekends too. I've been around the high school on the weekends. They're running together sometimes, so that's certainly a class that's got a lot of potential for Darien and a lot of guys that will be returning next year as well.
Yeah, one of the great things about this sport, as individual and personal as the races might be, the training is really, really important to do with other people. It'll help you get to that next goal, and if you're training with somebody faster than you, like a lot of the team does, you'll always be able to get to that next level.
That's something that Tyson Kazmarek says a lot during the practices. From what I personally remember, he'll try to send you out with a guy faster than you sometimes and say, hey, try to keep up with him today, and that'll really, really have you dig deep to try to stay with your guy, because you don't want to be falling behind during practice, and it's sort of just like some friendly competition, I would say, that can be really motivating.
Yeah.
Some more here finishing for Darien as we approach the 21:30 mark. We see some more Bridgeport runners coming around as well. The sun beginning to set, the air cooling once again. And this race just about concluding here at the Stadium East Field. Luke, it's been great having you on. Some expert analysis, I'll tell you, from a captain to someone that knows a lot of these kids very well personally. Thank you so much for giving us a lot of insight about each of these individuals, as well as a lot of the strategies, too, that I know you've taken on with you beyond your high school career.
Of course, I appreciate you having me. Thanks.
That will just about do it here from the Stadium East Field at Darien High School. The boys varsity winner, Parker Broderick, followed by Ansley Skelton and James Cunningham. On behalf of our entire DAF Media crew, we'd like to thank you so much for watching. A little apology for some of that laughter earlier. We were having some fun time over here while some of the runners were on the back side of the course. But just an overall beautiful day for some running, beautiful day for some cross country. The DAF Media, of course, is a joint venture of the Darien Foundation and the Darien Athletic Foundation. Some special thanks to Coach Rashid Sofian and Tyson Kazmarek as well, helping us with the setup and preparation here at the high school. I'll go through our DAF Media crew, of course, always advised by the great Damian Andrew, Ryan Peck, Leon Chen, Andrew Ferguson, and the great Braden Shank. Thank you so much for watching. Have a nice evening.
DAF Media is actively seeking financial support. Founded in 2017, DAF Media has quickly become Southwestern Connecticut's source for quality sports, arts, and community programming. If you like what you see on the DAF Media Network and want to help us continue to deliver high-quality broadcasts while teaching lifelong STEM, communication, organization, and leadership skills, please email us at sponsor@dafmedia.org. We are a registered 501c3 organization.